What's up, folks? I'm back. Time for Picard, episode 5. The title of this episode is Imposters, and holy crap, I think this might be the one of the best episodes of the season so far. There was so much that happened here. Apologies for being a day behind on this. I usually have these out the morning of, but we had no internet at our place, so I had to wait and get this up. I'm recording this in the afternoon of the 16th as opposed to recording this in the early morning and getting out on the 16th. So, be that as it may, if you are someone who is new to my channel, I don't do free reviews. So, everything about this episode is going to be diving into all the juicy details. So, if you don't want things spoiled and you haven't watched the episode yet, make sure you go away, watch it, come back later. But if you have already seen it, you're in the right place. We're going to be diving into episode 5 of season 3 of Star Trek Picard called Imposters. You've been given your fair warning. Three, two, one. So, holy moly, this episode was 10 out of 10 for me. Fire, just straight fire. There's so much happening here. We get a lot of plot reveals about things. We start off with the ship being repaired, preparing to head back home. Everyone looks tired, and then Jack appears on the bridge and starts shooting everyone. And he's looking down at this, person who's looking back up at him, dying. I know who you really are, and you see like this veiny red substance come over their face, and it's just like, ooh, what's going on? And then you realize it's a dream sequence, and he's continuing those weird visions that he started having in the previous episode. Waking up with the phaser in his hand, he drops the phaser and you hear his mother's voice in his head echoing with some indistinct words. His eyes turned red, and then we hear Captain Vadek's voice whispering, "Come home." And I keep just going here, especially with the way they're tying this into how the changelings have evolved here. He's got to be a changeling. There's come home, like I, I just feel like he's going to end up being tied to the changeling somehow. I can't prove that. I don't know. Because supposedly Beverly's been with him forever, so it's her son. I don't know how this is going to all pan out. So it's very interesting to me. But next up, we've got Picard and Riker realizing they're going to have to face the Meeks for Starfleet for what just went down. It turns out that Shaw has already contacted Starfleet and they're on their way. The reckoning is coming for Picard and Riker. Riker transferred command back to Shaw and he reinstates Seven of Nine and says, "Would you rather face the music commissioned or decommissioned?" And she's like, "Commissioned, sir." And he's like, "Fine." And now I'm going to step outside so the three of you could get your bullshit story straight. And I'm just like, I freaking love Shaw. Shaw is proving to be one of my most favorite characters on Picard season 3 so far. He's a lot of fun. Um, Beverly and Seven of Nine are both tied up on how this changeling was able to bypass internal Starfleet sensors, something that has been in place since the Dominion War and something that should be impossible. And Beverly wants to do an autopsy. And this is when, during the course of the episode, she comes to realize that whatever's happening here, it's like the evolution of the changelings. It's they're evolving, they're becoming something different, and so everything. They're not going to be able to sense them. They've got a plasma-like blood substance. Their internal organs are there, and it takes a lot of trauma to be able to actually make them revert back to their jelly-like state. Because even under death, the body retained its form. So it's craziness. There's also this push from Picard that he wants Jack to join Starfleet, and Jack's like, "I don't really think you. It's like you haven't been paying attention to who I am if you think I'm gonna join Starfleet." So yeah. Um, Raffi and Worf are training. Worf is talking about requesting access to Daystrom Station, but getting his request denied. The request comes back and says, "Find another way." So his handler is denying him. Um, and they have this showdown, Raffi and him, and she's yelling about sacrifice, and he's like, "Do not presume I have not sacrificed for this." But now they realize they have to find Kryn, this criminal kingpin who knew the Sneed dude that they took out earlier. Meanwhile, the USS Intrepid has arrived. Shaw sitting here humming to himself. He's like, "I'm feeling kind of chipper," as he waits for Riker and Picard to get their asses chewed out. He's such a dick, but it's so funny. And then we get the reveal of who is the interrogation officer, and it's Ro Laren. And she's back, and somehow she's in Starfleet and not in prison like Picard thought she was, considering her previous association with the Marquis. And man, for those of you who remember her from Star Trek: The Next Generation, the relationship between her and Picard is so complicated, and it was just so brilliant to have her come back for this guest spot. Um, Really cool stuff happened here, but 7 of 9 takes Jack away Need to get you hidden. She gives him a Starfleet uniform, and he's freaking out about it. Um, Rolaren telling Riker and Picard that treason is the flavor of the day if they can't answer the questions accordingly. So she's a commander now, and she's no longer wearing her Bajoran earring. And Picard is like, they're doing the questioning. She's questioning him. He's fighting back, arguing. Is this you turning your back on another institution? Is what he says to her. She realizes she's not wearing her earring. Meanwhile, we've got Jack back in uniform, but he's in the transporter room having more visions and root tendrils and screams as his group is teleporting out. And then he shoots the guy and comes back to himself and realizes he didn't just shoot the transportation officer. He's just having more visions. He's like, he needs to get off the ship. We've got Worf and Raffi meeting this guy, criminal boss Kryn, who turns out to be a Vulcan, and it's Kirk Acevedo, who I haven't seen since Fringe. This guy's a badass. I love this actor, but I haven't seen him since he was on Fringe, and it was really cool to see him come and do this guest spot. Um, but yeah, there is more confrontation between Picard and Rolaren, but really what this ends up becoming is as she interrogates him and takes him off to this, area where she can interrogate him privately, she diverts to the holodeck, where they have a very tense confrontation about the past. They both get very emotional. They both put their weapons down, and then she proceeds to spill the beans that Starfleet has been compromised at the highest level, and you just need to trust me. And he does, because despite everything, he does understand her. And we realize now that the changelings are way more than just the one or two here and there. They've infiltrated everything. I love this sequence back on the planet where Worf and Raffi have to fight for the criminal overlord, and she stabs him, and he was like, "Today was a good day to die," and he slumps to the ground, and Kryn's like, "I've had 10 to 1 odds that Worf would kill you. You work for me now, and I've got your ex-husband, your son, your granddaughter," and then boom, here's here's Worf coming up behind him with a knife to his neck and says, "Klingons never disappoint." I have mastered the Carlos technique, which slows my heart, but uh, you know what? We should probably skip to the interrogation as I am in desperate need of medical attention. And I was just laughing so hard because it's just classic Worf. Oh, so good. Um, but it turns out that they get the information they need from Kryn, the criminal Vulcan overlord. Yawns, man. Talking about Daystrom Station is guarded by an AI system, but he's got the key code to get in. We'll get back to the ship, and Ro has transferred most of the crew off of the Titan back to the Intrepid, leaving Picard a skeleton crew of those he can probably trust. And he wishes that he could see into her head and understand. She says that I wish you could see into my head and understand that what I did, I only did because I thought it was the best. And then she gives him her Bajorian ending earring and gets on the shuttle and starts to head back to her ship. Meanwhile, Picard's trying to convince Shaw they need to run, that Starfleet's compromised, but Shaw's like, whatever, dude, I'm not listening to a word you said. You should have been court-martialed. What's going on here? Then we see the two officers that were with Ro in her shuttle beam out, leaving a self-destruct bomb on board. They're back on the Titan now. They change shape. There's no time for her to disarm it or anything. She's like, Jean-Luc, it's up to you now. She rams her ship into the Intrepid for a suicide run to give them a fighting chance. And Shaw is finally starting to believe as he's watching all this go down, but he's still terrified of turning his crew into fugitives. But Riker's like, man, if you can't trust us, trust your own eyes. Like the Intrepid is about to fire their torpedoes on us, they're going to kill us. And he finally gets convinced that they need to run. And meanwhile, the changelings find Jack, and they say that they want to attach a transporter to him to transport him away, which makes me go, he's got to be a changeling because they're treating him like one of their own. But then he has the visions again, and the red mist, the door, his eyes. There's a fight scene. He kicks their ass, sees the red veins, the roots, the red door again, and then he snaps out of it as after he takes the four out. And then they warp out at the last minute, and it's such an epic shot because like it's as the Intrepid fires the torpedoes, their warp engines come back online in the Titan, and they're out. It's so cool. It was such an epic shot. They had a lot. Just everything in this everything in this episode was turned up to 11. I felt they had great visuals, great fight scenes. Picard and Riker are here. Turns out the Bajoran earring is a data chip, and they realize they're looking at Ro's entire investigation, and then there's an incoming transmission, and it's Worf, who is so her Worf's handler was Commander Ro, and he's like, Admiral, Commander, Captain, this is unexpected. Where's Commander Rowe? And then Beverly's in sickbay having a chat with Jack. How did you know those four were changelings? And he didn't. And then he finally is. He doesn't actually say anything, but he does start to break down. And he tells you, like, I think something is very, very wrong with me. And that's how the episode ends. And I'm just like, I really hope he's not going to lie. I hope he's going to tell her the truth and we can actually get some clarity on things because we're halfway through the season already. Like, I think there's what, 10 episodes here? So we're halfway through. We got to start getting some answers about who Jack is and what's going on with him. So great episode, like 10 out of 10. I mean, just I think this is probably one of my favorite episodes of the season so far. It was just super action packed. We kind of got away finally from the whole the ship in distress. Getting action sequences, space combat sequences, plot reveals, storyline reveals, all sorts of great stuff happening here. So love to hear your thoughts. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Drop all your comments down below. Support if you can. Membership, super chat, super thanks, the Patreon page. I get to do this full time thanks to the support of our community members. So until next time, everybody, stay safe, live long, and prosper.